time to live and be.
All right, well, welcome back to the Monica Brant Show. I'm Monica Brant. We've got 𝗬𝗍𝗂𝗍 superstar co-host Wendy Fortino, and of course, legendary athlete. Oh my gosh, coach, wife, mentor, leadership, everything under the sun. Tanji Johnson, 𝗬𝗍𝗂𝗍 celebrity legend. Can I say more? We have been having such a great conversation with you, and I just love all of the stuff we've talked about in our first time around. And here we are again, getting to dive in a little bit deeper to where we left off with your time at the Air Force Academy, which I know is no easy feat to just get entered into that and all the things that led up to that point. Now, just the two highlights that I'm like looking at, because I'm thinking Air Force Academy is prestigious, it's hard, like you can't get in there and mess around. And then you add in, oh, you're a varsity cheerleader, and oh, like you're gonna do these other things. So how did you manage to do all of those things? And were you a cheerleader all 4 years? Like, maybe share a little bit more, because I'm like captivated by that.
Sure. Well, the rumors are true. When you think about all the military institutions, their number one purpose is to train and develop the future leaders of America. And one of the things that I embraced right away that was a huge challenge was time management. I remember just feeling like, wow, they know how to pack it in to an agenda. I mean, as a cadet, I was getting up at, 5:36 in the morning, cleaning my room, doing military duty, and then marching to breakfast, having breakfast, going to school. I think I was doing 21 to 24 credit hours a semester. Oh. Yes. And I would go back home, during breaks. And then my friends from high school were taking 16 credit hours, maybe 14. And so I didn't even know that, that was pretty incredible to take that many credit hours. So we were in school 5 days a week, all day long. And then in the evening, you either went to your intercollegiate sport if you played a sport, or you did intramural sports. So you still did a physical activity. It was either on the collegiate level or on the club level. Mm-hmm. And then at night, there was still more military duty. And then you studied all night and got that much sleep.
My goodness.
So they really trained us to be high performers and performers under stress, which totally makes sense when you think of the demands of, let's say, a fighter pilot who needs to be able to get the mission done under a lot of stress, but be very efficient and very precise with what they do. And so we were very busy, but our lives were very full. And no, I did not cheer for 4 years. Actually, as a freshman, I was on the Cadet Honor Guard, and this is a very military drill team. And we had the reputation of being the most militant organization within that military organization. And so when you think of the Honor Guard, if you guys have ever seen color guards or flag detail, funeral detail, or when you see the 16-person formation, where we're basically spinning the rifles up in the air, catching it, spinning it, like that's what the Honor Guard was. And it was a very prestigious team to be a part of. And basically, we kind of got hazed every day for a year. And if you still made it at the very end, then you made it on the team. And so a lot of people thought we were crazy, because they're like, first of all, it's already hard to be at a military academy. Who wants to deal with all the military stuff and then volunteer in your off time when you could be playing a sport to go get hazed for another 3 hours, right? A lot of people. Did. Yes.
She did it.
So I'll be honest. When I was a cadet, I became fascinated. This is going to sound really funny, but I became fascinated with being a badass. So I was obsessed with I want to do anything that's hard. I want to do the hardest thing, because I felt like I had something to prove.
Yeah.
And so not only as a female, as a Black female. So when you come into an institution, so we were talking about this before, where you are the minority and you look around and you're like, okay, I'm at the most prestigious Air Force school in the country, and I don't see a lot of people that look like me.
I see that fire in your eyes right now.
Yeah, right?
It's so thick.
And so
it's like going through the screen right now. Something True.
Yeah, because a lot of people may not be able, this is a very important thing to address. A lot of people may not be able to relate to the potential damage that can be done to a person's self-esteem where they do not see people that look like them in positions of success, right? Mm-hmm. So it creates this weird insecurity. So let's say I'm at this institution, I look around, I don't see a lot of Black women, and I'm thinking, why? Are we not smart enough? Are we not good enough? Like, where are we, right? Mm-hmm. And so already there's this little insecurity that like, I know it was hard for me to get here. Where's everybody else? And so once you're there, then you feel this calling for, well, you better not screw it up. Not only you better not screw it up, but now there's even more pressure for you to succeed because you need to be here when the other ones show up. When the next class of women come in, they need to see 20 to 30, not 8. Out of 1,200 cadets, there were 8 Black females in my entire graduating class. That's nothing. That's nothing, right? And so it was a little bit of all of that, right? And also coming from my upbringing and just wanting to be successful. So I just remember I went out for the honor guard because I heard that it was the hardest thing you could do at the academy, that most people wouldn't volunteer for it, that you're going to get yelled at every day. You're going to have to do 5-mile runs, holding on to rifles while they're like, hitting on your head, like all this stuff we were going to have to go through. And I remember thinking, but if I do it and I make it, I'm going to be that much tougher, right? That's how I felt about my childhood. Like my parents were strict. And so when I got to the academy, I thought, I'm used to my parents yelling at me. I'm used to the negativity and the critiques and all the criticalness. Bring it on. And so then when I graduated from the academy and I got into bodybuilding, come on, bring it on. Lift weights. Let's do it. So it just compels one thing after the other. So I look back with fond memories. It was really, really hard, but I really appreciate that it literally was a leadership laboratory. Yeah. You learn how to be a follower first. When you're a freshman, you are going to be humble to being a follower. You have to learn how to follow before you can ever lead. So the academy taught us to be a follower. Then when you became a sophomore, you trained the freshmen. So now you become a trainer. You give back what you learned a year ago to the new people coming in. By the time you're a junior.
Tell you can't do this because you're a girl. Did you ever have anyone say that to you? Oh, you can't do that because you're a girl.
You know what? I'm trying to remember if they made it about me being a girl. I don't think that they did. When I went through basic training, it was literally, they did not make it about me being a girl because what the military is very good at doing, when they're breaking everybody down, you're all the same. You're all, freshman cadets that know nothing. You are all right here. And so that made us a team. It didn't matter who got a 4.0, who was valedictorian of their school. Nobody cares about that. When we got there, all the guys got their heads shaven and all the women got their hair cut. We were all, and we had to wear an ugly ball cap, right? So we were all the same. And it was good that they stripped all of those egos out of the way to build a foundation of us being a team. So that's why we had to be a follower first. Then you became a trainer. When you were a junior, you became a supervisor. So you supervise the trainers training the freshmen. And by the time you became a senior, now you were the leader. You were the ones making the decisions. So you were leading the supervisors who were supervising the trainers who were training the freshmen. And so when you think about that, that was my 4-year experience of being humbled to the very bottom and learning appropriately how to be a real leader, a leader of people, a leader where you put service before self, integrity first, and excellence in all we do. And I just said the Air Force core values.
You embedded in your heart.
Wow. Totally.
Man, there's some stuff there. So how did you have time and when did you do cheerleading? And were you a cheerleader in high school?
No, I was not.
And I'm asking this because I'm assuming that part of your life helped you in the fitness competitions.
Right.
In some degree, right? The cheerleading aspect of it. So, so you were not a cheerleader in high school?
No, when I was in high school, like I said, we couldn't afford to do gymnastics lessons or dance lessons. I remember I wanted to, but my dad, he's so funny. He would always say, you want to learn how to dance? Watch it on the TV. Or you want to learn how to do flips? We got a big yard in the back. And I'm like, so it's funny because I actually got very good at studying movement on TV and copying it. Yes, right? Exactly. So I didn't cheer, but I ran track, and I ran track in high school. And then when I got to college, I started off doing the honor guard. So I did that for a couple of years. And then my junior year, that's when I decided, I was like, I want to try out for cheerleading. Like, you know, the Air Force Academy had a cheerleading team, and I just wanted to try out. And I remember showing up, and our coach said for the tryout, everybody has to be able to do a standing back tuck and a back handspring. Now, at the time, I could do a back handspring, but I'd never done a standing back tuck. And I just remember being so determined that I turned to some of the other people that were trying out, and I was like, hey, will you spot me? Like, I think from what I've seen, that it looks like they just jump and then they tuck and then they stand up. And so I just remember, like, if you spot me, yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So I remember somebody spotted me, and I had strong legs and I had power. So I did the flip, and everybody was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, seriously, you just did a standing back tuck and you've never even done it before. And so that's when I felt like I knew. I was like, oh, I'm born for this. Like, I can do this. I think I'm going to make the team. And I made the team, and I just enjoyed the tumbling and the stunts and the athleticism that collegiate cheerleading demanded. And so it was super fun. So I only did it for 2 years. And then that's when I started lifting weights. And so literally when I graduated from the academy, I did my first NPC bodybuilding show in Colorado, promoted by Jeff Taylor, who's still around, right?
Yep.
And that's how it all started for me. I fell in love after that. Totally fell in love.
Gosh.
And what was that?
Yeah, I was going to say,
what's that?
What year
was your first show?
That was 1997. That was the year I graduated.
The year before Monica won the Olympia.
That's right.
I came out to that show. I did a guest appearance at that Colorado show with Jeff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't remember what year. It might have been 96, 97. I don't even know right now. I don't remember, but I know
you may have been the year before, because Carla Sanchez was guesting the next year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been, because I know I did a lot of appearances just getting out there trying to help people see what fitness was, and I made some good money doing guest appearances. That was awesome.
So fun. Back in the day when people actually bought photographs.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't seem like it now, but I mean, at the time, you know, women were definitely not, you know, in any way like leading the way in like the world of fitness. I mean, it was very, you know, small percentage of women who, you know, pursued, you know, fit bodies and muscle. And so in a lot of ways, you guys are both trailblazers, but people don't even think about that now, because I mean, with social media and everything, it's like seeing a woman with muscles is like, I mean, you know, seeing the beach. It's like, nobody thinks twice about it, but
yeah, exactly.
But, you know, you guys both were the ones that were brave enough and had, you know, the courage enough to go for it and basically like lead the way for everybody else, you know?
Well, thank you, Wendy. You're so good with your words, and you're always honoring. So thank you. But
and then same with Tanji with the military, right?
I know.
Leading the way.
Thank you.
So you got out of Air Force Academy, just like, okay, I'm done now. Now, I don't say that lightly, because I said earlier, my dad, third generation West Point. 𝗬𝗫𝘂𝗁𝗲 magazine pick. So I don't say that lightly by any means. And but there's got to be like this, you know, did you stay in the military at all?
Yeah.
Like, what was the transition? Because coming out of something 4 years of that intensity, like, I can only imagine physically, emotionally, mentally, like you had to come out of that and be like all steam into something else. And I have an example I want to share really quick. I met a guy at the Arnold Classic, actually, backstage, and he was a fan of mine, but I didn't know at the time. But anyways, he was an astronaut, so he'd been up into space numerous times on leading missions. And I met him at the Arnold Classic. He had I want to say when I met him, he had taken something maybe of Arnold's up to space. That's what I think, because it's been a lot of years since that happened. But when I got to know his story, he had been an astronaut.
Wow.
But before that, he had been in the Air Force, I guess, and he flew the helicopters that were like they go straight up. And I guess I don't have the right names for those things, but like I guess my understanding was like the hardest ones to fly, you know. And so he went from that, and then he went to, you know, was a astronaut, and you're like, can only imagine what that would be like. And then he retired, and I'm like, what do you do when you retire from that kind of life? Like, and now he flies for FedEx, and he likes his job. But I actually want to get him on the show. I think it'd be really fun. I just haven't been able to line up.
No, I want to hear him.
I know, right? But my point is like you take those 4 crazy years, and the 4 years prior to that are high school, which is crazy enough. But you had a mission to go all out in high school, make the grades, do the leadership stuff, do the volunteer. And I know it's a big commitment to take on, to say, I want to get into one of the academies, the Ivy League academy like that. So how do you go? There's 8 years of your life, right?
Right.
What you come out of the Air Force Academy, what's the transition for you into fitness? Like, because all of a sudden, you know, you're like, I'm going to go compete. Like, okay, what does that look like?
It was, I would say it was a very gradual, natural transition, because fitness started off as a hobby for me. I will say that when I competed in cheerleading, that the time that I was there, my team was the first team from the Air Force Academy to ever make it to cheer nationals. Right. So we went to, I think, UCA or NCAA, National Cheerleading Association. We made it to nationals. We got a butt kick, but we made it to nationals. Right. And so I enjoyed those 2 years of being extremely competitive with my team in cheerleading. So when I graduated, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way when they graduate from college and they did a collegiate sport. If they're not going pro in the NBA, football, or hockey or something, they're just kind of like, they go straight into a career that has nothing to do with athleticism. So I remember feeling unfulfilled, like, now what? You know, I'm an adult now, and like I can go, you know, coach at some cheer camps, but I mean, I'm not going to be a professional cheerleader now that I'm done with college. But I had just started getting into bodybuilding, and the timing worked out perfect, where I did my first NPC bodybuilding. And when I say bodybuilding, I don't mean fitness. I did bodybuilding.
Oh,
bodybuilding. Yes. So I did bodybuilding in the same year that I graduated. And I remember, and this is why I became so passionate about coaching, Wendy, because I remember I made so many mistakes. Like I didn't get tan because I thought I didn't need to because I was black, right?
Right.
I didn't know anything about dieting. I was just healthy. So I wasn't as crisp and as dry as I needed to be. But I had a great Janet Jackson routine, right? So I just remember I got like, I think I got last. I got 7th out of 7th. And I remember feeling like I'm so much better than this, but I needed to be better prepared.
And at that, your Michael Jackson routine, though, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you did Janet Jackson at the beginning, and then Michael Jackson at the end. It was in the middle, but we had it covered.
Girl, I started with Janet Jackson, then I did Michael Jackson, then I won the Arnold Classic with my Janet Jackson routine, and then I retired with the Prince routine. So
gosh.
it was really fun to do all of it. But when going back to that bodybuilding show, I remember losing and thinking I'm better than this, but I wasn't prepared. There's a lot I should have done to be better prepared. So I remember taking that personal responsibility, making up my mind, like, I need to find out more about what is required in this industry, like tanning and posing and suits and shoes and how to diet for a competition, not for, I look great on the street. Right. And at that show, they had fitness, but I didn't really know what fitness was. And I see these girls going out and they're doing these fun athletic routines. And I thought, I should do that. And so immediately, that's when I did my next fitness show. So I did bodybuilding first, then I went straight to fitness, never looked back because I enjoyed it so much. So I think you were asking, Monica, how did I evolve into fitness? Well, I started competing as a hobby while I was a lieutenant in the Air Force. And so I became an aircraft maintenance officer on the KC-135, which is the Air Force aerial refueler. So this is that big KC-135 airplane where you see the boom pod, and it literally passes gas to fighter aircraft in the air. it's really amazing because, you know, a fighter aircraft can't make it all the way across the country and stay there because their fuel tanks aren't big enough. And so the tanker's job is to go with that airplane, give it some fuel so that it can continue to do its mission without running out of gas. And so I was a maintenance officer in charge of the maintenance for that aircraft. And so while I was doing that job in the Air Force, I was lifting weights and I was working out and I would just hit up all these different NPC shows. And it was just a hobby of mine for 3 years. And then I moved to Washington, got stationed at Fairchild. Actually, I was doing Fitness America first, right?
Okay.
I did NPC. Then I went to Texas when I went to my military tech school, I won the Texas Fitness America, did all these Fitness America shows, got on ESPN2. Then I moved to Washington and they didn't have any Fitness America shows. So I remember just doing NPC and I met Brad and Elaine Craig because I did the Emerald Cup and the Ironman. And I remember telling them, they said, "Oh, are you going to nationals?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm going to Fitness America Nationals in November." And they were like, "What?" Because I was winning all the shows in Washington. Yeah. And they were like, "Okay, do me a favor. NPC Nationals is 2 weeks before Fitness America. Just do me a favor. Just please go to Atlanta and just see how you do.
And quit talking about Fitness America."
Right. They just said, "Go to this one first." Can you believe I went to that Nationals and that's when I got my pro card. My first time ever, I won the whole thing, right? So I was just blown away. And so what happened for me—
You asked if we could believe that? The answer is yes.
Right? She did ask.
So at that time, I really had to decide. I was like, wow, I'm a pro now. And at that time, I'd been in the Air Force for 4 years. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I was passionate about working out. And I was passionate about fitness. I recognized that what I appreciated about my time in the military was the leadership aspect. And why not apply that to the fitness industry? And I was also becoming very intrigued about business. And I thought, you know, this would be a perfect time for me to be a professional athlete, learn how to be an entrepreneur, but I got to be willing to step away from my past and the security of having a government job. So I come from a family, rich dad, poor dad, where we've all been employed. I don't come from a family of business owners at all. And so it's a really incredible book to help change your mindset, because when I told my parents, "Hey, by the way, I know I did junior ROTC and I went to the Air Force Academy for 4 years and I served 4 years in the Air Force. Yeah, I think I'm just going to get out. I think I'm going to do this fitness thing." My parents thought I lost my mind. They were like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? And so I didn't have their support initially. So again, I found myself having to prove myself in my career, because I just wanted to be successful so I could go back to my mom and dad and say, "Hey, I did it differently. I did it differently and I'm still okay. I have money, I have health insurance, I can pay my bills, and I love what," you know what I mean?
That was so important. My dad, like, "You have to have health insurance." Okay. That was a big, big thing for him.
Right.
Because I wasn't, But that's funny you say that, because I don't know if parents talk to their kids about those kind of things now.
Right.
But not to change the subject there. It's just like, I remember my dad.
It's funny for me to go back and remember how I had to have that fight mentality, because I didn't really get that support from my family right away. I mean, they thought I was talented. I just didn't think that they thought it was going to work out. And
it was new and different and not your standard kind. And they couldn't see the big picture.
Right.
They and until you get in the industry and you can see all the opportunities or the opportunities that you can make for yourself, you don't see it. Because a lot of people still ask me, like, "Well, what do you do? And how did you make money all those years?" Or what, I was like, so that's, it's just because they don't see. What?
I know that's just like the commonality in successful people. You know, if you feel like you have to prove yourself, there's something that intrigues successful people about that. Like, if you didn't have to fight for it, it wouldn't mean as much. Like that fight is where the value is established, right? So this thing that you want it so bad because there's this high value ascribed to it, because everybody says it's not possible. And so as you're fighting, and it's hard and it's maybe it doesn't happen right away, the value goes up. And successful people need that.
So true.
It seems frustrating. It's like when you get to the other side of that, there's no way you would be able to feel that level of success if you didn't have to feel like you had to prove people wrong or fight against something, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, Tanji, who were your first maybe mentors in the industry, and who did you, or did you just completely do your own routines? Because I'm curious about that, because the routine part is such a big part for a fitness person. And I know some people that can do their own routines. I'm like, that wasn't me by any stretch. So, so kind of like, who were those first people for you? And then, who did you work with in the beginning to kind of help establish that nutrition and like who helped you, guide you?
I would say in the very beginning, I didn't really have a lot of mentors. I was kind of shy and I was extremely independent. And at the time, I remember not even having a lot of money. So I just remember when I did that switch and I went Air Force to self-employed, woo, that was a struggle. I mean, I started from the bottom. I remember getting my pro card and I became a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness. And, and I look back and I thought that was good for me. I thought I'm an IFBB pro, but I've never been a personal trainer before. So I was totally okay starting from the very beginning at a gym like 24 Hour Fitness, where I could get exposed to a high volume of clients, train a wide clientele of people, and get that experience. Once I did that for about a year, then I was ready to go independent, found a little studio and became an independent contractor because I felt more confident about all the experience I had just after. I mean, if you work for a big gym, they're going to work you to death. I was seeing people from 6 in the morning to 8 at night, just training. But I just remember doing that and building up my expertise. And so I started off training there. And then I did my own routines, did my own diet. I did all of that initially. But then I do remember working with Mike Davies. So Mike Davies was actually my very first coach. And I have to talk about this because, when I was starting off, I just remember fitness was a hobby for me. So it was not like a die hard, oh my God, I'm in it to win it. I just really liked working out. I enjoyed my talent and the pursuit of excellence and my athletic skills, and competing was fun. So I would almost say when I turned pro, I don't think competitively, mentally, I was really ready to compete at the pro level because I still had that amateur mindset of, oh, this is fun, right? So when I started working with Mike Davies, he was at such a serious place in his coaching, and everybody he worked with was super serious. And so I remember going out to some of his camps, and he would send me a diet and I would follow it like 80% of the way. And then some of his other girls would find out that I kind of misinterpreted things on the diet. Like he would tell me, if he said olives, I'm going out getting olives that had high sodium from the market. Or I wasn't taking things literally, and I wasn't like checking in with him as much. It was just kind of guidance. I looked at it as guidance. But the good problem is that I was still winning and doing well, even though I wasn't operating out of my potential, because I just wasn't 100% bought in yet when it comes to my level of discipline and basically how I was dieting. So I just remember I was very hurt in the beginning of my career because a lot of people judged me, like the clients judged me because they were jealous that I did really well and I didn't have to work as hard. And I remember just dealing with that, like, why do you care? Like, if you want to go 100% and do you, then go. I have an opinion
about that, by the way.
You're gonna what?
I have an opinion about that, but I'll wait.
Okay. So they were very upset, and I just remember, to make a long story short, Mike had to fire me because his clients were so. They were saying that I was disrespecting him by not being more 100%. And I just remember, like, I didn't understand what was happening. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I just lost my trainer. All these girls are mean girling me and they're mad because I'm doing really well. And I'm like, I'm talented and I'm doing the best I can. But I mean, I've never followed a strict diet before. I came from eating in the South where we had, cheesy grits and, eggs and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember feeling, so in the beginning, I remember feeling not welcomed by the industry because I just couldn't believe that people cared so much about what I was doing. And so, but I was very disappointed with how I was treated. So I remember feeling like, do you want Tanji Johnson to be 100% on? Oh, get out of here. Just wait till when I follow a diet. 100%. So, oh my gosh. So let me tell you, I got 7th at my first Arnold, which was my pro debut. Then I got fired by Mike. And then after that, I won my first pro show. That's what happens when you basically tell me that I'm not working hard enough. I showed up after that. And I was like, go ahead, keep criticizing me. But I mean, I look back now because I've been a coach. I totally get it. I totally get that. That's really annoying when you have to see competitors that maybe they're not giving 100% and they're still doing well. It's very frustrating to the athlete that's working really hard and maybe they don't have the genetics. But I still am not the type that would care about what other people are doing. But I just remember appreciating that. I just used it as fuel, and it fueled me to basically do better, and it made me a better athlete.
Yeah. Wow. And more understanding to other people as you got into coaching yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to walk through it. What is, Wendy, you had something you wanted to share.
I have a opinion about this perspective as a coach myself and everything. You know, the sport of bodybuilding is extreme, you know, getting your body to that extreme level of condition. It is difficult even for very genetically gifted people, right? I think that actually hits probably one of the biggest issues in our industry right now is that it's on one hand, it's so awesome that the industry has like extended its arms to so many people, but I do see a lot of people fighting their genetics so hard. Maybe it's not easy for people who haven't been lean their whole lives, and it's not as easy for them to be, you know, lean, and they have a lot of yo-yoing, and that's not healthy, you know. And people fighting their genetics so much and doing things to their bodies that could harm them in the long run. I mean, you're into wellness. We're all into wellness. And the reality is, just like how I'm 5 feet tall. I'm never going to be a basketball player. You know, there's, so all of us have our own unique gifts. And I do feel like it is easier for some people to get lean and stay lean. And it's not as much of a stress on the body to get to that level. And there's a lot more longevity. And it is one thing that, on one hand, you know, the thing that you felt like you're being shamed for is the reason is that genetic gift where you were able to be pretty lean without having to put so much work into it is the marker for this is your sport. Like you were in the right place, and once you put more work into it, you got yourself to that next level. But you know, that is, for me, when somebody has to fight their genetics so hard to be lean, I don't feel comfortable as a coach, you know, forcing someone to do such extreme measures to get so shredded when I'm thinking about their health and their longevity. And that's the difference between all of us. You know what I mean?
Right. And I really wish that Whitney Jones was around when I went through this, because that girl gets to have a donut like every week when she's training, because times have changed so much. You know, back in my time, nobody thought you could get away with that, or that was just a big no-no. And I look back and, you know, it did help me evolve as a coach, because I don't think you should force people to have to be at a certain place mentally. Like if somebody wants to compete, they need to do it for their reasons, on their terms, the way they want to do it, and let the chips fall where they were. You know what I mean? And so I look back and, you know, it shouldn't have happened, but it helped me grow. And Mike and I like totally get along. Like, you know, I just look back and I told him, like, I wasn't ready for you when I started working for you. You know what I mean? And your girls couldn't handle me, but, you know, I moved on, he moved on, and, you know, we still support each other and send each other clients and stuff. So it's all good.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So I got hired to do a guest appearance at the Powerhouse Gym in Santa Monica years ago, 2003 or something like this. I don't even remember, 2004. It was before I moved to Texas, back to Texas anyway. So, and 2 other pros were also brought in. And so the 3 of us were supposed to give this little kind of Q&A quick, because it's at a gym and they just weren't, they didn't have anything real specific other than we were signing pictures and taking pictures and saying hi to people, but they wanted us to have a Q&A. So they had us on this little area where we kind of stood up, and I don't know, had a little stage built or something. I don't remember, but long story short, and I won't name the other 2 people, but the 3 of us are there. I will say one of them is African was African American, and always lean, like year round, super lean. And she was a dancer and had a dance studio and was like all day long dancing and like hardcore. Like, so anyways,
I already know who you're talking about. Her name starts with an M.
Yes. So, or the three of us are up there, and they start asking questions. You know, how do you guys, diet? What do you eat? Blah blah blah. And I think I went. I don't know if I went maybe last. I can't remember, but the other girl is, white girl, and she's like, well, I eat, and she's like, clean eating and all this. And then maybe I went next, and I said, that I try to eat pretty healthy, and because for me, it's like, if I don't watch myself, I can put on weight just like anyone else, and I'm only 5'4", and I got more muscle belly, so it looks, even if I am only 5 pounds over, it's still a lot for my frame.
Right.
And I feel it and it looks it and everything. So then she gets up there and she's like, well, I don't diet. I eat French fries from McDonald's every day. And I don't know what else she talked about, but nothing was healthy at all. And I was like, well, I wasn't jealous, but I thought, well, it's kind of unfair for the audience, because I knew what I knew, like myself. Like, well, I get it. You are in this athletic environment all day long, and then you have this genetics as well. But it was like, she just was so, and I hate to say braggadocious, and maybe it was or wasn't, but just felt like she was like, well, I don't ever diet. And I just,
there you are.
Hit my microphone and it said I was muted. So I'm like, anyways, it was just one of the things like you're talking about. Like, she was just like, I don't diet and I eat French fries from McDonald's every day. And where else she ate. And I was just like, oh, that's okay.
Well, you see a lot of that in this industry too.
But it's not healthy. Like, I mean, that's you. And nowadays, I think we're all trying to enjoy, but yet have health. And as we got older, of course, that was in my early 30s, early 30s. So now, I mean, I'm 50 now. Like, my focus is not being super lean. I want to be lean enough where I feel good in my skin and I feel athletic and all that. I feel good in my clothes. It's not just how I look in the mirror, it's how I feel inside my health. And nowadays, but back then I wasn't thinking like that so much, but now it's like, maybe by now she would have been like thinking a little differently too, because she probably got by with a lot at that age, but it's just so different the way your age affects how you think when you've been in this health and fitness industry for so long, right? 30 years here. And I know you pushing 30 and Wendy's, up there too. So anyways, fun stuff, like really interesting.
I don't think it was her behavior patterns that probably was irritating. It was probably her delivery. Sounds
yes. Yes. That's exactly, because then it's so disheartening for the people watching too. Like, it wasn't like, well, my genetics and and I'm high energy and I can get by with this. It wasn't that. You're right, Wendy. It was the delivery, I think, is what I'm remembering so clearly. It was just like, that's not really
behind the scenes then, it was like such a bottleneck. So you only saw people in magazines. So a lot of times these people you looked up to, you didn't know their personalities and you'd be so inspired, and then you'd be so let down when you met them, and they the way they talked, you're like so off put. You're like, geez, that's so different now. We all have Instagram and social media, so you could tell a lot more about a person than just looking at them in a magazine now, right?
Right.
So you took your pro level and you went and started wiping everybody out with all your routines and everything.
Oh, wait. I do want to say this, Monica, because I didn't get to finish answering your question, but I started off independent. Like, I didn't really have any, choreographers, but I did work with some notable people that really helped bring my athletic level up to the next level. So I want to mention Pascal. Oh my gosh! Why is his first name Richard? Yes.
Yeah, so Richard, that's who I worked with, right?
Yes, and I don't even know if. So here's what it was. I saw videos of you training with Richard. So you weren't a mentor because I didn't know you in the beginning, but you were definitely a role model and somebody I looked up to. You were Miss Olympia. You were the best. And so when I saw that you were training with this guy, and then I noticed that he trained other fitness competitors, that's when I realized I want to work with a gymnastic coach that knows fitness. That's not going to design a gymnastics routine, but that knows fitness and knows tricks. So I would fly from Seattle all the way to Pasadena multiple times a year just to work with Richard. And it was really fun because he understood the sport. He had, you know, Monica knows he's super into it, and he focuses on you and what to bring out of you. Very challenging. He was always trying to get me to do stuff. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, oh yeah, you could do that. You can do that.
Well, that's the first coach I worked with, the first gymnastic, because I had all my stuff self-taught like you. I didn't go to gymnastics, and when I met him, you know, he saw my tricks and he's like, okay, and then he wanted me to, you know, well, why is your round off so bad? I'm like, because I never learned how to do a round off. He's like, well, let's fix that. And then even a cartwheel, like, I didn't know how to do a technical cartwheel correct.
Right.
My material was all messed up, but I still did it because, like, you and muscle and you mental. And so I was trying to remember how I met him, because he didn't have any other fitness people before me.
No, you were the first. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't. And then I brought in a couple other girls to him that I knew needed his coaching. Yeah. And then you might have seen the Secrets of Beauty, because that's where I did a lot of filming with him. That's the one, Wendy. That's the video that you saw too. And
that's how he started. I did fitness a little bit at the beginning. But, you know, I was a gymnast for a long time. And then, you know, I started this sport because I hurt my foot in track. So it really didn't make sense for me, once my foot healed, to start pounding my body in gymnastics. And it was a lot, you know. My body had already been through so much, because I had been doing gymnastics. I think it may be different if you start doing gymnastics. You know, when you know, for you guys later, but for me, my body was already pretty hustled.
Yeah. You know what? Different, and I don't know, easier or harder. Like, there's because when you're almost 30 and you're trying to learn how to do some of these things, you're not as brave. You don't I don't know.
It's harder in a lot. It's harder because your body has.
There's also all of this other stress. Stressors. I don't want to say stress, but stressors of life and business and relationships. And when you're younger and you can that's your main thing, like, and your body's, you know, different. Like, I just think there's interesting, the different positives and negatives of each. Because I know that there's
double whammy, like gymnastics your whole life, and then starting fitness, you know, in your 20s. It's like the double whammy. Like, you're already your body's been through a lot, and then you're doing this new thing.
Wendy, when you were starting, Wendy, were you on the hard floor still, like, training?
Yes.
Because I started off on the hard floors.
Yeah. And I was so blown away when I got to, it was my first fitness show, and it was like this makeshift stage with nails sticking up. I had 3 backflips, back tucks in my routine. And I'm looking at this makeshift stage that was so small. And I'm like, what in the world am I supposed to do?
How are they? I remember one of the Olympias, they had they had the stage where it was like, there were 2 runways that came out like this. There was a big triangle, empty hole in between those. And there was a little strip at the front, and that little strip, you know, and then you have the drop off down into, you know, the audience, and behind you is these little skinny walkways, and then this big hole. So for me, I'm very I had to have like big clear area and no hazardous things to feel comfortable. And I remember that Olympia. I think it was 96.
She's laughing.
I'm like,
that's terrible. Oh my gosh.
You're already thinking about that. Like, what is my space? Am I have enough space? And you probably did, but you know, mentally you're like, oh my goodness, it was so crazy.
But I get what you're saying, Wendy, about with gymnastics. It's almost, you know, it's hard when you're older, it's hard when you're younger, but it's that time that you're doing that to your body. And for you felt like you maxed that out, where we got started later. And trust me, when I was in the second half of my career, after 10 years, I was feeling it on my body. And that's actually what got me more interested in hand balancing, which is what leads me to my second coach, Steve Atlas. I hired a guy to basically teach me how to do handstands and hand balancing. So once I brought that skill to my routine, I didn't have the demand to have to do so much high-level gymnastics. I still always did a standing back tuck and a tumbling pass, but now I could pack my routine with other hand balancing, and that would count as my strength move, where in the beginning of my career, there was mainly a few push-ups, a few holds, and then you felt like you had to do more tumbling. So literally just to be strategic and save my body in those later years, I kind of transitioned to more hand balancing that made my routine. Right.
Hi everyone, Monica here. Just wanted to thank you so much for watching the Monica Brant Show, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share these videos, and oh yeah, and that little bell notification, don't forget to click that so you'll get more great content every time there's a show uploaded or a video or anything else. So you guys, thank you so much for your support, and as always, stay fit and love life.